At my daughter's wedding anniversary, my husband told me, "We are done." My husband of 32 years just looked me dead in the eye and said the words that should have destroyed me. My hands were shaking, my heart was beating. The string quartet is playing inside. Olivia's laughing with her guests, and Richard, my Richard, just told me he's leaving, tonight, for someone younger, someone new. My name is Elizabeth Anderson. I'm 56 years old. I've given this man 3 decades. I helped build his empire from nothing. And now, in the garden, where we planted roses together 15 years ago, he's throwing me away like I'm expired goods. Welcome back to Auntie Dorothy's Stories. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Your support truly encourages me to continue sharing these incredible tales with you. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love hearing from my sweethearts around the world. But here's what Richard doesn't know. My hand isn't shaking from heartbreak, it's shaking from pure, calculated rage. Because 6 months ago, I found out about his little secret. And I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't confront him. I did something much, much better. I investigated. See, Richard thinks I'm just Elizabeth, the retired housewife, the woman who hosts dinner parties and does charity work. But before I became Mrs. Richard Anderson, before I gave up everything to support his dreams, I was Elizabeth Morrison, a forensic accountant. I tracked money for the FBI. I found needles in haystacks made of offshore accounts and shell corporations. And when I found that lipstick stain on his collar 6 months ago, I didn't wash it out, I photographed it. And then, I started digging. What I found, God help me, what I found went so far beyond a simple affair that I almost laughed. Almost. Right now, Richard's looking at me with that same smug confidence he wears in board meetings. His salt and pepper hair, perfectly styled, his Tom Ford suit tailored to perfection. He actually thinks this is going to be easy. He thinks I'm going to cry, beg maybe, ask him to reconsider. Instead, I'm reaching into my purse. My fingers touch the envelope I've been carrying for weeks, waiting for exactly the right moment. Before you go, Richard, there's something you need to know. He waves his hand dismissively, like he's swatting away a fly. Nothing you say will change my mind, Elizabeth. I'm done. It's over. Amber makes me feel alive again. Amber, 28 years old, works in his marketing department, blonde, ambitious, stupid enough to think she hit the jackpot. I smile. Not the warm smile I've given him for 3 decades. This smile is cold. This smile is the one I used to wear when I was about to destroy someone's entire financial empire in a courtroom. This isn't about changing your mind, Richard. Let me take you back 6 months. March 15th, a Friday. I remember because it was trash day, and I was taking Richard's shirts to the dry cleaner. That's when I saw it. Not just lipstick. That would have been forgivable, maybe. Explainable, but it was MAC Ruby Woo, and I don't wear red lipstick. Never have. Richard knows this. 32 years, he knows this. I stood in our bedroom, our $10,000 Italian silk sheets, perfectly made, holding that shirt, and something clicked in my brain. That forensic accountant part of me that I'd buried under years of charity galas and country club luncheons, she woke up. She stretched. She remembered. I didn't confront him that night. When he came home at 11, I kissed his cheek, made him a drink, asked about his day. He lied so smoothly, it was almost beautiful. Late meeting, babe. You know how it is. The Henderson account is killing us. The next morning, I hired a private investigator. Cost me $3,000, cash, from my personal account. The account Richard thought was just for spa days and shopping. Within a week, I had photos. Richard and Amber at the hotel downtown, Richard and Amber at a beach house in Hilton Head, Richard and Amber test driving a Mercedes convertible. But I kept digging. Because something felt off. The investigator found the affair, sure, but my instincts, they were screaming that there was more. So I did what I do best. I followed the money. See, when Richard started his tech company 25 years ago, I was there. I wasn't just there, I was essential. My inheritance from my parents, $200,000, that was his seed money. My connections in Silicon Valley, from my accounting days, those were his first investors. My financial projections secured his Series A funding. But over the years, as the company grew, as Richard became this self-made success story, my role got quietly edited out. Suddenly, it was all him. His vision, his genius, his company. I still had access though, because back in the beginning, when we were partners, real partners. I set up all the financial systems. I created the passwords. And Richard, brilliant Richard, never thought to change them. Why would he? I was just his wife. Playing tennis and planning dinner parties. I logged into the company's financial system on a Wednesday afternoon while Richard was at his meeting with Amber, and what I found made my blood run cold. Offshore accounts, 12 of them, Cayman Islands, British Virgin Islands, Switzerland, millions of dollars, siphoned away systematically over the past 3 years. Money that should have been in the company's operating accounts. Money that should have been paying our employees' retirement funds. Money that belonged to our shareholders. To our daughter's inheritance. I printed everything, every transaction, every wire transfer, every fraudulent invoice. I worked through the night, cross-referencing dates with Richard's calendar, matching mysterious business trips to account activity. By sunrise, I had a spreadsheet that would make the FBI weep with joy. But I wasn't done. Because the offshore accounts were just a symptom. I needed to find the disease. I called Theodore Noah. Theodore used to work with me at the Bureau 30 years ago. Now he's a partner at a forensic accounting firm in Atlanta. We met for coffee. I showed him a sample of what I'd found. Not everything, just enough. Elizabeth, this is securities fraud. This is serious federal crime territory. If what you're showing me is real, Richard's looking at 20 years minimum. It's real, Theodore. Every digit. He looked at me over his reading glasses, the same way he used to look at me when we were young analysts taking down insider trading schemes. Why are you showing me this? Why not just divorce him and take your half? Because there is no half anymore, Theodore. He's been moving assets for 3 years. By the time I file for divorce, there'll be nothing left to divide. He's planned this. This isn't just an affair. This is an exit strategy. Theodore helped me understand the full scope. Richard wasn't just stealing from the company. He'd been inflating earnings reports, showing fake revenue to keep stock prices high. He'd taken out loans against assets the company didn't have. He'd created shell corporations that existed only on paper. The company, worth $50 million on paper, was actually drowning in $17 million of hidden debt. And the timeline, oh God, the timeline was the worst part. Richard had plane tickets, May 25th, one way to Costa Rica, 2 tickets, him and Amber. Costa Rica doesn't have an extradition treaty with the United States. He was going to leave the country, leave the debt, leave the lawsuits, leave the employees without their pensions, and leave me holding the bag. Because technically, I was still listed as a board member. My name was on documents. If this all came crashing down after he disappeared, I'd be the one facing questions. I'd be the one potentially going to prison for his crimes. But Olivia, my daughter, my brilliant, beautiful daughter, who's a partner at Morrison & Associates, who just celebrated her 2nd anniversary with David, who still believes her father hung the moon. Olivia's inheritance was tied up in that company. Her trust fund was company stock. If Richard's house of cards collapsed, she'd lose everything. That's when I made my decision. I wasn't going to run. I wasn't going to hide. I was going to burn his entire world to the ground, but I was going to do it in a way that protected our daughter. If you learned something shocking today, hit that subscribe button. You won't believe what I did next. How far would you go to protect your child from their parents' crimes? Drop your answer in the comments. I spent the next 4 months building the perfect trap. Every morning, I'd wake up at 5 a.m. before Richard stirred. I'd go down to my home office, the one he never entered, because it was just where Elizabeth does her charity work, and I'd document everything. Photos of documents, screenshots of accounts, recordings of phone calls. Yes, recordings. Because in Georgia, you only need one-party consent. And I consented to recording every conversation I had with Richard about the business, about finances, about his plans. I'd ask innocent questions over breakfast. So honey, how's the Henderson account really going? Are we hitting our numbers this quarter? He'd lie, smooth as silk, and I'd record every word. I contacted the SEC anonymously. Set up an encrypted email account. Started sending them breadcrumbs. Just enough to get them interested. Just enough to start an investigation. I didn't give them everything at once. That's not how you hook the big fish. You let them think they're discovering it themselves. I also contacted our family lawyer. Not the corporate attorney Richard used. Our personal attorney, James Morrison. The same James Morrison that Richard screwed over in a business deal 12 years ago. The same James Morrison, who smiled when he took my call. Elizabeth, I wondered when you'd reach out. What can I do for you? I need to protect Olivia's inheritance, James. And I need to make sure that when this all falls apart, my name is clear. We met in his office. I showed him everything. He actually laughed. Not a happy laugh. The laugh of someone who's been waiting years to see karma catch up to a bad man. There's something else, Elizabeth. That prenup Richard made you sign when Olivia was born, when he was worried about protecting the company from divorce? I was the witness. Except I wasn't, because I was in Seattle that week at my sister's funeral. Richard forged my signature. The prenup was invalid. Everything we'd built, everything in that company, half of it was legally mine. The prenup that Richard had been so smug about, the one he thought protected all his assets, it was worthless. James helped me quietly transfer what I legally could into Olivia's name. Not the company stock, that would have raised red flags, but the real estate we owned personally, the vacation home in Asheville, the condo in Miami, the investment properties. I signed them over to Olivia as early inheritance gifts, perfectly legal, perfectly documented. I liquidated my personal investment accounts, the ones I'd maintained separately. $700,000 that Richard didn't even know I had. Put it in a trust for Olivia that he couldn't touch. Meanwhile, I played the perfect wife. I attended Richard's business dinners, smiled with his colleagues, laughed at his jokes. I went to couples yoga, where he'd check his phone constantly, texting Amber. I planned Olivia's anniversary party, spending weeks on details, making everything perfect. Richard grew more confident, more careless. He'd come home smelling like Amber's perfume. He'd make excuses that didn't even make sense. Tuesday night, he told me he had dinner with investors. I checked his credit card statement the next morning. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. $247. Including a bottle of Dom Perignon and 2 orders of lobster tail. Funny, I thought, investors usually expense their own meals. One night in early May, I found a document on his laptop. He'd left it open on the kitchen counter while he showered. It was a letter to Olivia. To be delivered after he was gone. I read it while I could hear the water running upstairs. My dearest Olivia, by the time you read this, I'll be starting a new life. The company had problems I couldn't fix. Your mother will tell you I'm a coward, but sometimes the brave thing is knowing when to start over. I love you. I'm sorry, Dad. Start over. He was going to abandon his daughter, his employees, his entire life, and call it starting over. He was going to let Olivia watch her inheritance evaporate, watch her mother potentially face legal consequences, watch everything crumble, and he called it brave. I took a photo of that letter, added it to my evidence folder, went upstairs and climbed into bed next to him. He rolled over, half asleep, and put his arm around me. I love you, Lizzie, he mumbled, using the nickname he'd called me since we were 25. I lay there in the dark, his arm heavy across my waist, and I felt nothing. The man I loved, the man I'd built a life with, he'd died somewhere along the way. This person next to me was a stranger, wearing Richard's face. The SEC investigation intensified. They executed a quiet audit in April, requested documents. Richard was starting to sweat. I could see it. He'd come home. Pour himself 3 fingers of scotch instead of 1. He'd snap at me over small things. He'd spend hours in his home office with the door locked. One night, he asked me, if something happened to the company, if we lost everything, would you still love me? I looked at him, really looked at him. His face was tired. Older than I'd noticed. When did he get so many gray hairs? When did those lines around his eyes get so deep? Richard, I've loved you through everything. Starting the company in our garage, the years we ate ramen so we could make payroll, almost losing the house in '08. I've loved you through all of it. But if I found out you'd been lying to me? If I found out you'd put our family at risk? He looked away. That won't happen, Lizzie. I promise. I'd never put you or Olivia at risk. Another lie. Smooth and easy as breathing. I met with Amber 2 weeks before the anniversary party. I knew where she lived. Marina District, high-rise condo. I waited in the parking garage until she came home from work, 6:15 p.m. She was wearing a Chanel suit, real Chanel. I know because I used to have the same one before I donated it. Amber, I need to talk to you. About Richard. She looked terrified. Backed up against her Mercedes. Mrs. Anderson, I can explain. I held up my hand. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to offer you a deal. We went up to her condo. Minimalist, expensive, paid for with Richard's money, no doubt. I sat on her white leather couch and laid out the situation. The fraud. The investigation. The inevitable collapse. The prison time. Richard's going down, Amber. The only question is whether you go down with him. Did you know about the fraud? She was crying. Real tears, I'll give her that. I didn't know, not at first. He told me the money was his. But then, 2 months ago, I saw documents. Fake invoices. I'm in marketing, Mrs. Anderson. I know what real invoices look like. So you knew. And you didn't report it, that makes you an accessory. Her face went white. What do I do? You cooperate. You talk to the SEC. You give them everything. Emails, text messages, whatever Richard told you. In exchange, they'll give you immunity. You'll walk away clean. Or you can stay loyal to a man who's about to spend 20 years in federal prison. Your choice. She chose survival. Smart girl. The SEC gave her full immunity in exchange for her testimony. She wore a wire to her last 3 meetings with Richard. Got him on tape discussing the offshore accounts, the exit plan, everything. And Richard had no idea. Thought his young girlfriend loved him. Thought she'd run away with him to Costa Rica. Build a new life on stolen money. Meanwhile, I kept planning Olivia's anniversary party. 200 guests, the country club, string quartet, 5-tier cake. Olivia was so happy, so grateful. My mom's the best, she kept saying to her friends. She makes everything magical. If only she knew. The morning of the party, I got a call from Theodore. Elizabeth, it's happening. SEC is executing search warrants Monday morning. 9 a.m. They're going to raid the offices, freeze the accounts, the whole thing. By Monday afternoon, it'll be all over the news. Perfect timing. Thank you, Theodore. One more thing. Richard tried to liquidate his position yesterday. Tried to sell $10 million in company stock. We blocked it. The SEC flagged it as suspicious activity. He can't access any of it now. Richard didn't know that yet. Didn't know he was already trapped. Didn't know the walls were closing in. He spent Saturday morning playing golf. Came home, showered, put on his Armani tux. Kissed my cheek. You look beautiful, Lizzie. That dress is perfect on you. I was wearing deep blue, his favorite color on me. One last performance. At the party, Olivia glowed. David made a toast. 10 years from now, 20, 50. I hope we're still as in love as we are today. I hope we build something as strong as what Elizabeth and Richard have built together. I felt Richard squeeze my hand. Felt him lean over and whisper in my ear. I need to talk to you. Outside. Now. And that's when it all came together. That's when 6 months of planning, of documenting, of carefully setting every piece in place, that's when it all became real. Before we move on to what happened next, make sure you're subscribed. This story is about to get even more intense. What would you have done in my position? Confronted immediately or played the long game? Tell me in the comments below. We walked out to the garden. Same garden where Richard proposed 33 years ago. Same garden where we used to drink coffee on Sunday mornings and plan our future. The party noise faded behind us. String quartet playing something classical. Olivia's laugh carrying on the breeze. Richard turned to me, and his face, God. His face wasn't even apologetic, it was resolved. Like he'd finally made a difficult business decision. Elizabeth, I'm not happy anymore. I haven't been for a while. I said nothing. Just watched him. I met someone. Someone who makes me feel young again. Alive. Someone who sees me for who I am now, not who I was 30 years ago. Amber, I said quietly. Her name is Amber. She's 28. She works in your marketing department. You met her at the conference in Miami last year. His face flickered. Surprise, then annoyance. Yes, Amber. I should have known you'd find out. You always were thorough. Thorough. Like I'd just balanced the checkbook instead of uncovered his entire double life. I'm leaving tonight, Elizabeth. I've already packed. I have a flight in the morning. Amber and I are starting fresh somewhere new. I'm done with this life. Done with the pressure. Done with pretending. Done with me, I said. You're done with me. You've gotten old, Elizabeth. We both have. But I'm not ready to just give up and die. I need someone who makes me feel alive. Someone who doesn't remind me of every failure, every compromise, every year that's passed. I felt something break inside me. not my heart. That was already broken. This was different. This was the last thread of mercy I might have felt for him. The last whisper of doubt about what I was about to do. And Olivia? I asked. You're just going to leave her? Tell her what? That daddy needed to feel young? Olivia will understand, eventually. She's smart. She'll figure it out, and she'll be fine. She has David. She has her career. She doesn't need me anymore. What about the company, Richard? What about the employees who've given you decades of their lives? He waved his hand dismissively. The company will be fine. I've left instructions. The board will handle it. Instructions. As if instructions could clean up the nuclear wasteland he was leaving behind. I'm not asking for your permission, Elizabeth. I'm telling you out of courtesy, out of respect for what we had. I'll be fair in the divorce. You'll be comfortable. You won't want for anything. Won't want for anything except the truth, except loyalty, except the 32 years I gave you. Is there anything you want to say? He asked, checking his watch. Amber's waiting for me at the hotel. I need to get going. That's when I reached into my purse, pulled out the envelope, the one I'd been carrying for 3 weeks, waiting for exactly this moment. Before you go, Richard, there's something you need to know. He sighed, exasperated. Nothing you say will change my mind, Elizabeth. I'm done. It's over. Amber makes me feel alive again. We've been planning this for months. Everything's arranged. This isn't about changing your mind, Richard. I opened the envelope, pulled out the first document, a bank statement from Grand Cayman National Bank, account ending in 7,734. Balance, $4.2 million. His face changed. The color drained from his cheeks. Where did you get that? I know about the offshore accounts, Richard. All 12 of them. I know about the money you've been moving for 3 years. The money that should be in the company's operating accounts. The money that belongs to our employees' pension fund. You went through my files? His voice was rising now. You had no right. I pulled out more documents. The falsified earnings reports. The fake invoices. The Shell Corporation filings. I know about the securities fraud, the inflated revenue reports, the loans you took out against assets we don't have. I know the company isn't worth $50 million, Richard. I know it's drowning in $17 million of debt. I know you've been lying to shareholders, to the board, to the SEC. He lunged forward, tried to grab the papers. You can't prove any of this. This is all speculation. You don't understand business, Elizabeth. You never did. I stepped back, kept the papers out of his reach. Oh, I understand perfectly. You see, you forgot something important. Before I was your wife, before I became the woman who planned your dinner parties and hosted your clients, I was Elizabeth Morrison. Forensic accountant. I worked for the FBI. I specialized in finding exactly this kind of fraud. And you, Richard, you were sloppy. I can't. You don't. His hands were shaking now. Even if you have documents, they don't mean anything. My lawyers will bury you. You'll never prove I did anything wrong. That's when I pulled out my phone. Played him a recording. His voice, crystal clear, from a phone call 2 weeks ago with his CFO. Push the revenue recognition into this quarter. I don't care if the contracts aren't signed yet. Make it look good for the board meeting. We just need to hold on until May. Then none of this matters anymore. How did you? Georgia's a one-party consent state, Richard. I've been recording our conversations about the business for 4 months. Every lie, every admission, everything. His face went from pale to red. Anger replacing shock. You destroyed my life because you're jealous? Because I found someone who actually appreciates me? I smiled, that cold smile. The one from my old life. No, Richard, I didn't destroy your life. You destroyed your life. I just documented it. And I didn't do it because of Amber. I did it because you were going to let our daughter lose everything. You were going to disappear to Costa Rica and leave Olivia holding the bag. Leave her to face the lawsuits. The angry employees. The federal investigation. Your own daughter. Olivia will be fine, he said, but his voice was weaker now. She's smart, she'll land on her feet. Olivia's trust fund is company stock, Richard. Company stock, that's going to be worthless when this all comes out. When the fraud is exposed, when the company collapses under the weight of your lies, you were going to take your stolen millions and leave her with nothing. Your own child. I wouldn't. I would never hurt Olivia. But you were. You are. That's exactly what your exit plan does. But here's what you don't know. I've been busy too, Richard. While you were planning your escape, I was planning something else. What did you do? His voice was barely a whisper now. I protected Olivia. The vacation home in Asheville, signed over to her. The Miami condo, hers. The investment properties, all transferred legally as early inheritance gifts. Her trust fund is no longer company stock. I liquidated it last month and put it in a diversified portfolio she controls. Whatever happens to your house of cards, Olivia is safe. You had no right. That was my property. Our property, Richard. Community property. And that prenup you're so proud of, the one you thought protected everything? James was supposed to witness it. Except he was in Seattle at his sister's funeral when you claim he signed it. You forged his signature. The prenup is invalid, which means everything we built together, I'm legally entitled to half of. But don't worry, I don't want your fraudulent empire. I just wanted to make sure Olivia was protected. Richard stumbled backward. Sat down hard on the garden bench. This can't be happening. Oh, it gets better. I contacted the SEC 4 months ago. Gave them everything. Every document, every recording, every offshore account number. They've been investigating you since April. You reported me? To the government? I reported your crimes, Richard. There's a difference. And they were very interested. Very thorough. They've been building a case. Gathering evidence, talking to your employees, your accountants, your bankers. When? His voice cracked on the word. When are they? Monday morning. 9 a.m. They're executing search warrants. They're going to raid your offices. Freeze all the accounts. Seize all the records. By Monday afternoon, it'll be all over the news. Tech CEO Richard Anderson arrested for securities fraud. A former self-made success story faces 20 years in federal prison. No. This isn't. I can leave tonight. I can still get out, Amber and I can. Can what, Richard? Fly to Costa Rica? They flagged your passport last week. If you try to leave the country, you'll be arrested at the airport. Try to liquidate your stock? Already blocked. Tried to move money yesterday? The SEC stopped the transfer. You're trapped. Every exit you thought you had, it's closed. You've been in prison for weeks. You just didn't know it yet. He stood up, started pacing, his hands pulling at his hair. This is impossible. This can't be real. I'm careful. I covered everything, my lawyers assured me. Your lawyers don't know about the fraud, Richard. They can't protect you from what they don't know about, and by the time they find out, it'll be too late. Olivia. I need to see Olivia. I need to explain. Explain what? That you stole from your own company? That you were going to abandon her? That you committed federal crimes? That you were going to let her take the fall? What exactly do you want to tell our daughter? I never meant. I was going to send her money. Take care of her from Costa Rica. With stolen money? With money that belongs to your employees? To your shareholders? You were going to live like a king on other people's stolen retirement funds and think that made you a good father? His face crumpled. I made mistakes. I made bad decisions. But I'm not a bad person. Elizabeth, you know me. You know I never wanted to hurt anyone. I stepped closer to him, looked him in the eyes. Here's what I know, Richard. You're not the man I married. That man had integrity. Had honor. That man would have faced his problems instead of running. That man would have protected his family instead of abandoning them. I don't know who you became, but you're not my Richard. You're just a coward in an expensive suit. Please. There has to be a way out of this. There has to be something I can do. There is one thing. You can face what you've done. You can confess, cooperate with the investigation. Maybe, if you show remorse, if you help them recover the money, if you testify against anyone else involved, maybe they'll show mercy. Maybe you'll only get 10 years instead of 20. He laughed, a broken, desperate sound. 10 years. I'm 59 years old, Elizabeth. 10 years is a life sentence. You gave yourself that sentence when you started committing fraud, when you decided stealing was easier than actually running the company. When you chose Amber over your family. When you choose yourself over everyone else. You did this. Not me. You. And there's one more thing you should know. His head snapped up. What? What else? Amber. Your young girlfriend who makes you feel so alive? I met with her 2 weeks ago. Showed her everything. the fraud, the investigation, the inevitable prison time, gave her a choice. Go down with you or cooperate and walk away clean. She wouldn't. She loves me. She took the immunity deal. Richard. She's been wearing a wire for the SEC. Your last 3 meetings with her? All recorded. Every word you said about the offshore accounts, about the exit plan, about Costa Rica, all on tape. All evidence. She testified against you yesterday. The sound that came out of him wasn't human. It was pure anguish. Everything, every single thing in his world, was collapsing at once. My life is over. He screamed it, loud enough that the party noise inside stopped. Loud enough that I heard glasses clinking as people paused mid-conversation. My life is over. My company, my money, my freedom. Amber, Olivia, everything. It's all gone. You destroyed everything. No, Richard, you destroyed everything. I just made sure you couldn't take anyone else down with you. He clutched his chest. His face went gray. I can't breathe. What did you do to me? I'm not doing anything to you. You're having a panic attack. You're realizing that your actions have consequences. He collapsed. Just went down like a puppet with cut strings. Fell right there on the garden path where we used to walk on Sunday mornings. I pulled out my phone, called 911. Calm, collected. Yes, my husband collapsed. We're at the Oakmont Country Club, Garden Terrace. No, I don't know what happened. Yes, send an ambulance. Olivia came running out, David right behind her. Mom, what happened? Dad? She knelt beside him. Richard was conscious but gray, sweating, gasping. My baby girl, looking at her father, with so much love and worry in her eyes. He's going to be okay, sweetie. He just got overwhelmed. The ambulance is coming. Richard looked up at me. Even through his panic, through his fear, I saw him understand that I'd won, that every move he'd made, I'd countered. That he'd been playing checkers while I played chess, that the woman he'd underestimated, dismissed, called old and used up, she'd destroyed him completely. The ambulance arrived. Paramedics loaded him onto a stretcher. Olivia rode with him. David followed in their car. The party slowly resumed inside, guests whispering, speculating. I stood alone in the garden. The same garden where Richard had just told me he was leaving. The same garden where I'd just ended his entire world. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel joy. Didn't even feel vindicated. I felt tired. So incredibly tired. But Olivia was safe. Her inheritance was protected. Her name cleared. When the news broke on Monday, when her father's crimes became public, she'd be hurt, devastated. But she wouldn't be destroyed. She'd have her money, her career, her life. And eventually, she'd understand why I did what I did. I heard Olivia's laugh from months ago, from a Sunday dinner. You and Dad are relationship goals. I hope David and I last as long as you two have. My phone buzzed. A text from Theodore. It's done. SEC has everything they need. You're clear. Your name will never come up in the investigation. You were just the wife, uninvolved. Innocent. Innocent. That word felt like a joke. I wasn't innocent. I was methodical, calculating, cold. I'd spent 6 months planning my husband's destruction, and I'd done it with the same precision I used to plan birthday parties and charity events. I walked back toward the party. Through the French doors, I could see guests dancing, the string quartet playing, the cake, still uncut. Olivia's anniversary party, continuing without the anniversary couple or the hosts. I stopped at the door. I looked at my reflection in the glass. Elizabeth Morrison Anderson, 57 years old. Forensic accountant turned housewife, turned something else entirely. Something harder. Something that could smile while burning her entire world down to save her daughter. Some things are worth it, I whispered to my reflection. Some things are worth burning everything for. I opened the door. Walked back into the light. Into the music. Into the party that would be my last as Richard Anderson's wife. On Monday, the news would break. SEC raids, tech company, CEO arrested. Fraud scheme uncovered. My phone would ring off the hook. Friends, family, reporters. Everyone wanting to know. Did you know? How could you not know? And I'd play my part perfectly. The shocked wife, the betrayed woman, the victim who never saw it coming, because that's what women like me do. We survive. We protect what matters. We do what needs to be done. Richard thought I was weak. Thought 32 years of marriage had made me soft, dependent, easy to discard. He was wrong. If this story moved you, if you understand why I did what I did, hit that subscribe button right now. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes, the most dangerous person in the room is the one everyone underestimates. And here's my final question for you. Was I right to destroy him to protect our daughter, or did I go too far? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading every single one. Because here's the truth they don't tell you about revenge. It's not sweet. It's not satisfying. It doesn't heal the hurt or fix what's broken. It's just necessary. Sometimes, burning down everything you built is the only way to save what truly matters. And I'd do it again. Every single calculated step, every documented lie, every cold conversation while I knew exactly what was coming. I'd do it all again to keep my daughter safe. That's what they'll never understand. Richard, Amber, the lawyers, the prosecutors, the reporters who'll write about this for weeks, they'll paint me as vindictive, as a woman scorned, as someone who couldn't handle being replaced by a younger model. But Olivia will know. When she's older, when the shock fades, and she looks at what I did, really looks at it, she'll understand. Her father was going to ruin her life to save his own. And her mother burned him to ashes to stop it. So here I stand, in the garden where it all ended, where 32 years of marriage died in 15 minutes, where I proved that the most dangerous thing you can do is underestimate a woman who has nothing left to lose except her child. Richard's life is over. Mine is just beginning, because for the first time in 3 decades, I'm not Richard's wife, I'm not Olivia's mother. I'm not the woman behind anyone. I'm just Elizabeth Anderson, the forensic accountant who never forgot how to find the truth, the woman who played the long game and won, the mother who loved her daughter more than she loved her own peace. And that's the only thing that matters. Subscribe if you believe mothers will do anything to protect their children. This is just the beginning of my story. What would you have done? Tell me below.